Our guest today at the Logistics Lager Lounge is Mike AMES from Flair Consultancy. Thanks for joining us this afternoon, Mike.
An absolute pleasure to be here, Dave, and especially since I was encouraged to have a little drink when I was here. So cheers, everyone.
It's the rules. It's got to be done. It always makes a good day. So I wanted to ask you, if I can, we've got a list of questions, but one of the things that's happening in logistics is about technology and AI changing the game. Is that the same with when you're speaking to your clients as well, Mike?
AI is changing the game across the board, really. And there are some things that it's doing which are generic. It doesn't matter what sector you're in. And then there are obviously some very sector specific things. But in general terms, I think AI is what it's able to do really well, obviously, is analyze a lot of data very quickly and draw conclusions. And if you're good at asking the right questions, you're going to get the right answers. So, for example, we could put the transcript for this interview into AI and ask it to write a blog post of, say, 1,000 words or something, and put a spin on it so someone in logistics would find this really interesting or something like that. And the machine will do that for you. And then if you don't like bits of it, you say, oh, that's really good, but can you put it in this language or that language? So for producing things like content and for producing things where it can analyze a lot of information very quickly and give you a way forward, I think it's very good. Increasingly as well, I don't know whether this started to come through in logistics yet, but a lot of large language model products are now coming on the market where the machine rings you up and talks to you. And I think that's a game changer because it's the very thin end at the moment. They're not really that good. They're the very thin end of a very thick wedge. And you can imagine in the future, the machine is picking up the phone and just speaking to people. So if you decided that you wanted to build your own database of drivers, say, better be using agencies. Now, fed up with that. Want to use our own database of drivers. We're not quite there yet with this tech, but let's just go with this as an example. So you say to the machine, well, okay, go and look on the job boards, go and look on Facebook, go and look on LinkedIn, go and look anywhere you can, and try and assemble me a list of people who look like they're professional drivers. That's what they do for a living. And then, so it can do that fairly easy. It could probably do that now, actually, reasonably well. And then I want you to ring them up and say, hi, I'm an AI, but I'm just ringing on behalf of XYZ Limited. And we're just building a database of drivers that we could push work to if you were free and we got an assignment. Would you be interested in being on that? Ask a certain amount of qualifying questions. And then you can either put that to a human to say, well, okay, this person looks like they're okay. They can work in the UK. They've got a full driving license, whatever else that you would expect during that qualification period. And then the human is talking to somebody that wants to be talked to that looks like they can do the job. So your HR department perhaps could do that, or you can outsource it to a TA. So you're starting to use the machines to do a lot of the groundwork that people would have done years ago, particularly around recruitment. I think a lot more companies will insource recruitment than they did in the past. I know that's not great news for certain recruitment companies, but for those like yours, which are going towards the medium and top end, it doesn't make any difference at all. But if you were putting drivers in, that's kind of hard, really. So AI is really changing the game in lots of ways. And just keep an eye out for this picking the telephone up and talking to your thing, because it's very impressive these days.
And how quick do you think it will happen, Mike? Because it's one of those things we're all talking about it in all sorts of things. How quick do you think it will happen, if that's okay to ask your opinion?
Yeah, well, the large language model that most of these products are based on seems to have hit a bit of a plateau in recent times. So the latest version of chat wasn't that much more powerful than the previous version. So some people are saying that it's got to go through another revolution. There's got to be another something large language model plus or version 2 or something. I don't know, but like a change before it goes to the next level. Others say, no, the increments will keep on going. Either way, I think within 3 years, you'll have a completely different market where a lot of the lower level jobs that people currently do will have disappeared and the machines will do them. Will they do them as well as humans? Probably not, but they'll do them quicker and they'll do them more reliably and they'll do them a good deal cheaper, I think. So I think between 3 and 5 years, if you look back, sort of say end of the decade perhaps, and look back, I think you see a massive change in those years. Huge.
Yeah, it's very interesting what you say there, Mike. On Excel, there's a thing, a function called what if function, and you can put in parameters in it, and basically it'll filter through tons of data and not make it pristine, but save lots of time and energy, and exactly what they're doing. So if you imagine in the sales world, never mind just in recruitment, you almost got people that are considering or would consider change for a reason. So for a sales force, you've got potential warm leads rather than cold calls all the time. And that could be more motivational and more efficient for everyone.
I think that's true. And also it can, so there's an AI product called Claude. And Claude's very good if you want to build little programs. You can do it in all of them, but Claude's very good for this. And one of my clients showed me something that he built. So it gave it the type of companies, some sample companies that he wanted to trade with. Claude went and found some companies which were similar, and then found the hiring managers that were the likely hiring managers within that space, and then their interests, and figured out the best approach to take to get to speak to them. It just did it. He pressed a button and out it all came. I mean, I was blown away by the work. Now, okay, is it going to replace hours and hours of research work? Yes, eventually. Does it do that now? Not really. But I was really blown away with some of the data that we found on that, just because Claude had been asked the right questions and given the right data to go and look. So I think for sales particularly, it's extremely useful. It can even analyze things like the posts that someone's making on LinkedIn and decide what's the best approach you should take to get to speak to that person. Or if you're going to do a pitch or some kind of proposal, maybe it'll decide based on conversations that you've had with that client, which it analyzes. It then figures out the best wording to put in a proposal. So it's changing the way in which people do everything, really. It's not just about necessarily doing people out of jobs. I think it's also about making it more attuned to individuals rather than being generic when you make approaches. Very clever.
Yeah, it's very good. And it almost sounds like it understands or can perceive each person's buying criteria. And that could be through language or comments or interests they have. No, that's really, really interesting. So, Mike, you set up your own businesses, sold them, and done very, very well. And you work with lots of entrepreneurs. One of the things I like to talk about is in this sort of thing is, what do you think are the most important and valuable skills for success?
Well, again, across the piece, first thing I have to say is getting the most out of AIs. Like anything else, you've got to know what to put in to get out what you want. So I think learning how to use these more sophisticated AIs, not just be a passive user of chat. Can you give me this, that, and the other, like using Google almost? I think you've got to go to the next level to really step ahead.
But Mike, I was thinking more just outside of AI. AI is part of that, but just if say.
Well, I was going to start with that one, Dave. Just a fair point. I'll have a quick slurp of Guinness on that one. But that skill, it is a skill. It's never existed before. The reason I bring it out, it is a real skill to know how to use the machines. Number one. Number two, I would say relationships, because as the machines start to attack at certain levels, machines can't build relationships. They can't do that. So I think certain types of people are going to hanker after a proper person who can treat them like someone that's important, not just trying to transact with them all the time. You know what I mean by that? Not on the sale all the time. They just want to have a relationship. They want to get to know you a little bit. They want to add some value. They want to perhaps come and see you if geographical bounds allow that to happen. And they want to have a relationship with someone they've got confidence in, they can trust. So relationship building skills, I think, have been lost. And you and I have talked about this many times. I think in the younger generation, they've just been lost in many cases. And that's a skill I think you're going to need in the future, for sure.
Yeah, and you build empathy and relationships, and you talk about what's going on in that industry, that sector, AI, what your competitors are doing, and it's very interesting, and all that stuff. And when I do podcasts about different companies, every time I'm doing one, I always find something really interesting that if I was down the pub or something like that having a pint, I just go, tell me more about that. But during the podcast, you can't. But it's just amazing what comes out, and and the whole world is very interesting and very innovative and amazing. And everyone does, the experts in each sector just are knowledge banks that are great to talk to and interesting to talk to. And
I think that this relationship building thing, I mean, I'm older than you. I'm kind of just a step up from you, I think, age-wise. That's how everyone did it when I started. There was no email, there was no mobile phones. You got on the phone or you got on the road. That was it, really. You could use a fax if you were particularly technically advanced. You could use a fax machine or a telex. God knows what that was, but you could use it if you had one. But really, get on the phone, get on the road, go and see people. And that's how you built relationships. And I think, of course, that's died away for all sorts of reasons. And COVID pretty much killed it off. But that's a skill now. If you can learn to do that, if you can stay away from email and WhatsApp and just pick up the phone and go and speak to people. And I know a lot of people out there that you're trying to trade with, they don't like the telephone and they don't necessarily like the in-person touch. It's fair enough, but those that do, you should feed that need for sure. So that's the second skill. And I think the third skill is pretty much what we're doing now, really, in a weird way. It's learning to self-market. And that's using, I mean, wherever your community go to absorb content, whether it's LinkedIn or Facebook or wherever, Telegraph, or wherever they go, you go there and you start to communicate in the written word or the audio or video, as we're talking about now. You've got to have the ability to communicate key pieces of information about yourself at the same time as adding value. Because if all you do is pitch all the time and promote, hey, we do this, we do that, pretty boring, pretty turn off, really. Got to add value. And I think those three skills, and relationship building and add value, of course, go hand in hand anyway. If you can use the AI to do the things that AI itself is not very good at, relationship building, and as part of that, if you can get yourself out to a lot more people, I think that's going to be the secret to success in the new world, personally.
Yeah, and I agree. And my business set up a long time ago, but I had a policy, and I still to this day, I say email is for confirmation, not communication. Because if you say, it depends how you read something, like a text. If you say something that you think is funny, if someone reads it and they're in a bad mood, they take it the wrong way. So and you've got to be careful. And that's my view on it. But I know the world's different, and I'm older, and we're older, maybe not wiser, but certainly older, and hopefully wiser too. But you're absolutely right there.
I think that there's an increasing appetite for it now amongst people, just to have that authenticity of speaking to a person who understands them and just doesn't want to do business, is non-transactional. They actually want to get to know them. I think there's a bunch of people out there that's all they've ever wanted. They don't really want the new world. But now there's people who are just fed up of this AI promoted sort of stuff that's out there. And if you get a chance, I won't talk about it now, but if you Google Uncanny Valley, it's essentially, it was coined by a Japanese computer scientist many years ago. And it's essentially when we see something that a computer has produced, but it was on behalf of a human, so they're pretending it's from a human, we can detect that. Humans are very good at detecting that, and we find it repulsive. It's something we kind of sheer away from. So actually being you, a person, which can't be generated by a machine, is more and more attractive, I think, to people. And it's a space I would get into. If I was younger, I'd be going very big on that.
Yeah, you're very interesting. And amongst the different questions you're asking, one thing I'm asking is, has there been someone who's been a key mentor or influence to you in your career, Mike?
Quite a few, actually. I seem to latch on to people, and in turn, so that I balance up the relationship bank account, I am always available. If people ask me for help and advice, I will always provide it. But I've latched on to people and learnt from people, sometimes more than others. But if you just want one person, I would say my very first business partner, Mike Sparks, who was my agent when I was freelance, when I was a programmer. Then I went to work with him as a trainee recruiter. Then we set up as business partners together. And he died in a car accident about 18 months after we set the firm up. So I didn't work with him for very long, but I learned so much from him. I learned the value of excellence. I learned relationship building skills. I learned the power of a network, what a real network can do for you if you build it and look after it. I learned about integrity and honesty and doing what you say you're going to do when you're going to do it. He was brilliant at all of those things. And he was a really big impact on me and very inspiring. And I was very upset, obviously, when he went. But he was my friend and my partner, business partner, and my mentor, all rolled into one.
Good, and it's lovely that, you know, it's so sad to have lost him. You're still talking about him so positively, and also anyone know him would love to hear these things, you know, because it's like the old Lion King, and it's a circle of life. We're all doing different things, and some of our journeys are long, some are shorter. But you've got to live every day, as I always say to everyone when I'm down the pub, which is my favourite place. I sound like an alcoholic, but I'm joking. But one question I think you'd be great at asking, because we've got a list of different questions we ask different people. If you were speaking to someone that was just starting out, what advice would you give them, Mike?
Okay, I know we haven't got much time left, but I'm going to tell this story with your permission. It's a true story.
Oh, right.
There's a comedian in the States called Steve Martin, and very famous comedian. And he was being interviewed by a guy called Charlie Rose, who's kind of like the American version of Michael Parkinson.
Yeah.
Been interviewed, and Charlie Rose said to Steve Martin, he said, if you've got any advice for people starting out in the show business, kind of, you know, what would that be? And he said, well, it's always the same advice I give, and people don't want to hear it. What they want to hear is the quick route to get an agent, or the quick route to get an audition, or the quick route to get in front of a producer. It's what they want. But the actual answer, which guarantees success, is you've got to be so good they can't ignore you. And that's true in any business. Everybody's looking for a shortcut, that magic thing that if they do this, suddenly they'll be successful. I'll tell you what makes you successful, and it's impossible to resist it. You are so good at whatever it is that you do that they can't ignore you. And that means three things to me. It means doing the right things with the right people in the right way. So the right things are whatever it is your audience wants to buy. The right people can buy it, want to buy it, have the money to buy it. And the right way means you're committed to doing it in an excellent way. Your commitment to quality is beyond question. And I think if you continue to do those three things, eventually you are going to be a success. It's not if, it's just when. Be so good they can't ignore you. And that's my advice.
That is fantastic advice, and a great way to sort of finish what we're talking about, you know, because, you know, and we've all talked about resilience, isn't it? Whatever you do, because when you run a business or work in sales or whatever, there's always knocks and what you got. Some of our viewers won't know this, but they should say weebles wobble, what they don't fall down, you know, which means you get knocked back, but you just stand up again and crack on, and that's what you've got to do. It's resilience, and that is really good advice. So, and obviously everyone that starts up, we all want them to succeed and flourish, because it sounds easy when you start up, but it's tough. But it's a great time, and have a good time. So just want to say thank you so much for your time, Mike, and cheers to you, Mike. And
thank you for inviting me on. Cheers. You're very good help.
Great. And we'll speak again soon. I'm sure our viewers and listeners will love it.
Thank you very much. Cheers, Dave.